peeps? It's your girl Dash. Come back to Funeral Takes. Well, you guys, I'm coming to you with a little special video. First off, happy Halloween. Want to do a little, kind of, horror themed type of video. I did one of these like a year ago where I discussed my top 20 favorite horror movies of all time, and I actually enjoyed doing that. I decided to do something a little bit similar but a little different. Now, in regards to this one, I decided, since a lot of the movies that I did pick were chronologically around maybe 70s, 80s, and a little bit of 90s horrors that I liked, I said, let me just start picking stuff that's kind of goes into the 2000s. So I said, this one I'm going to make it kind of about anything that came out going from 2000 to up to now, 2019. I'm picking certain movies from every one of those years that left a good impression on me, so to speak. So I know it's quite a bit of stuff for almost every year that might have come out. So if you're in the comment section saying, well, this is the ones that left an impression on me. Key statement right there. So I'm going to have certain movies from 2000 all the way till this present year, and just discussing a little bit about it, what it is I liked, of course, it was casting, whomever. And I'll probably read a little synopsis if you all are not familiar. Most of these that I think you all would know these. Some might not be too familiar, but I feel like the gist of you all might have heard of these and might have seen it maybe once. Some of them you might have seen multiple times. So with that said, so if I'm looking down, it's going to be mostly because I might read a little something about the overall, movie, just to kind of give you a feel for it. And I'll just kind of, as time go throughout all the years, I'll discuss a couple of them probably more detail than others. Some will be a little bit brief, some will be a little bit longer, especially if I'm talking about it too much, that means I really liked it. So with that said, let's jump into it. The first one was for 2000, and the movie that I really enjoyed that year was Final Destination. Now, that one, of course, starred Devon Sawa and had Ali Lauder and Tony Todd. This had to do with some kids, high school kids going, of course, on a trip to Paris. And Devon Sawa's character, of course, starts to have some sort of visions. Clearly, you all remember where he sees all the things leading up to the plane exploding. Of course, he starts to have, of course, a moment, whatever. Some of the kids kind of get into it, whichever. Some of them end up staying on the plane, but a couple of them, Devon's character and others who, get into a little bit of a, little scuffle of sorts, whatever and all, with the teacher, end up getting off, and unbeknownst to them, as they're out having this little fight still in the waiting area, they see the plane, of course, blow up, whichever. So from there, things start to kind of take place. They basically got away, bought themselves some time, whatever and all, that they were able to chase away death. And with that, certain things start to happen. Now, with this particular movie, I liked it because it was something a little bit different from the things I see previously before, and I liked it for the simple fact that with that, we were going to have to see exactly, since they cheated death, how is it going to come back full circle to rectify or finish what it should have done from the beginning if they had been on the actual plane. And watching all the different scenes from the individuals, some of them who end up getting killed and how they got killed, and that was the thing I can say about the Final Destination movie, that I really enjoyed. All the different types of death scenes were unbelievable, to the point that we've had multiple, I want to say, do we have 5 of these or is it 6? I'm trying to remember the number, excuse me, my mind went blank on how many. I want to say 5. And I will say, out of all of them, I like this one. I will say also, I do enjoy a lot of the death scenes from the sequels that led up after this one, whichever. But the first one, of course, is always going to be my favorite. I say that a lot because a lot of the originals I do like. Every now and then, if it is supposedly a remake or reboot and they do very well, I have no problem with acknowledging that per se. But this particular one, out of that particular franchise, I like the most. I like the overall casting. And speaking of Devon Sawa, when I went to a Monster Mania, he was supposed to be there, but due to the fact that he's on location, I think working on a movie, right, and he couldn't get away, that's why someone else had to come into his place, and things like this happen. So, but yes, it's fine. Hey, actors' work is never done. It's kind of a little sad and bummed, but it goes with the territory. So hopefully one other time I'll get to see him and meet him. He's been in many other movies and TV shows I like, but this was the one that was really making me go out to want to see him, so I could have met him in person. So, but that's the first one I like, and out of all that, that's the only one I really like that came out in 2000, to be quite honest with you. I will say a notable mention I did enjoy was a Ginger Snaps. That was the first original movie for them before they did, of course, a sequel. I actually enjoy that. You all know how I feel about werewolf movies, but it was okay. I powered through, so I just want to kind of throw that one out there. But needless to say, I will do a couple of notable mentions throughout as well, so I can keep it in, because there's quite a few stuff throughout some of these years as I go on, getting closer to 2019, where it's hard for me to do maybe one or two or three. There's multiple, so I just want to put that out there. Now, for 2001, got my notes, Jeepers Creepers. We remember that movie. It starred Gina Phillips and, of course, Justin Long. That was the first movie I think I saw that introduced me to him. You know, it's about, two, brother and sister heading home from college, whatever, and all that. They're on their break, whatever. And they come across, a situation, with a particular, character, or, what they think is some sort of, person, man, whatever, and they end up figuring out it's a lot more than they thought and a lot more they were bargaining for. And they basically are literally trying to get away from this said, creature, let's just call it what it is, because now that he is in their midst, he has caught their scent. We've seen the movie, and he smells, smells the scent. He smells their fear, more so Justin Long's character than anything. And I will tell you, when I first went to see this, that one was really interesting because he kept doing certain things. I'm just like, oh my God, the way he was acting, just like freaking out. But don't get me wrong, some of it I can foresee, because how would you really act if you saw something like this, in this, rundown, dirty, filthy truck, you pass it in the car, you see him, what looks like he put a body in the back, and then he catches you kind of staring, and all of a sudden, you're considered somewhat of a threat. You're trying to find help, you fall, you go into this, like, kind of like, water, river or whatever, you find all these bones and bodies, you get back to, a safe place where it's people, whatever, and that doesn't matter. He doesn't care. He could care less about any of those people. He's focused on Justin Long's character. And that was the key, whichever. Once he felt the fear of him, he had nothing else on his mind but to get this young man. Now, granted, the sister was trying to be the one that he would take, but in the end, he was like, no, take me, take me. And we see what happened. He literally, when he had him inside the police department, whatever, and he opened up his, his wings, whatever, and he flew off with him. You see all what happened at the end. He wanted a piece of his body, whatever. You see the scene where you see the eyes. He's cut his eyes out, and it's, just, it was a wrap. The poor man, you could hear the torture in the movie. Like, you could clearly see he's, mutilating him. It's just, oh my goodness. But yes, and also the Jeepers Creepers song. Let's not forget that part. Just hearing the woman sing it, whatever. And the black woman was just like, she wasn't scared, whatever, and all that, even though he grabbed her, whatever, and she just maintained, but she wasn't fearful of him. Just, I don't know what it was, but she got out of it unscathed. Go her. So, but yes, I really enjoyed that movie. As much as certain things he kept doing, I wanted to yank him in the movie. But, like I said, you could never know how you would act if this was truly something that was happening in, say, real life. So, but yes, that was a really good movie. I will even say the second one that came out, where it showed all the teen kids from the high school, I enjoyed that one as well. So, yes, I know they did a third one. That one was not good. Oh my goodness. I went to see that. And then with all the other stuff that's been happening in regards to the person at the helm of this, the director, it kind of just, it put definitely a cloud over that third installment. I was not aware of all the other stuff, but needless to say, this one I first saw with her, I really enjoyed it, whichever. If it happens to be on and I'm passing it, sometimes I'll stop and watch it, whichever, but that definitely is one of my faves, so I just want to kind of note that. Now, the next one in 2001 is 13 Ghosts. I really enjoyed that movie. It starred Matthew Lillard, I'm a fan of his work. And I enjoyed just the fact that this eccentric uncle who has his house that he leaves, for a family member, a husband who, of course, loses his wife, and he has 2 kids, and he's thinking he's hit pay dirt, whatever, and all this, gonna have money, whatever. He goes to his house. This house is not what it appears to be. You have these, I want to call it, and I wrote down my own notes, like these, like, horrible, vengeful type of entities that are amongst the home. They have all these particular scripture writings, whichever markings, to keep them contained. Of course, the way it's set up, some of the, walls and mirrors of the glasses do move at certain times that it has been, intertwined with a clock, that can let out set. Now, if you're wearing a particular set of glasses, you can see those particular entities. If you're not wearing that, you're safe. There's a scene with the daughter where she puts them on and she gets, a full experience of no other, where one of the particular actual entities I have, because I'm going to be posting up a collage of a lot of the stuff I wanted to present as I'm talking about. You all can kind of get an idea of some of the scenes, whichever, where this thing has like, this certain like muzzle of look like some sort of block around their face. That one was definitely a vengeful entity, definitely. So it was just like, if you came across that one, make sure those glasses are not on, because she went to town on her back and was just cutting her up, whichever. And then of course Matthew having this type of kinetic, experience. And every time he would touch anything, he can see for certain things happening. He could even see when he would get killed, just trying to save the people, save the family before anything happened. Realizing the guy he was working for, which was the family's uncle, family member, whatever, was up to no good. Just a disgusting human being in the end. And let's just say in the end, he got exactly what he deserved, by the said entities in the end. And I thought it was rightfully deserved. Rod Digger was in this movie. Enjoyed her. Also, overall, I did enjoy it. It was definitely creepy. Just something a little bit different. Like I said, ones that catch my eye. This one I really enjoyed. Loved going to see the movie. My audience we were really into it. I remember it very, very clearly. But yes, that was one of my favorites that came out that year as well. So I just want to note that one as well. Now we're moving to 2002. Now that one, the one that definitely stepped out, I'm going to be discussing three of them. The first one off the cuff is The Ring. That's the one that starred Naomi Watts, based off of course, you all know, some young girls end up watching a video, and when they watch the video, certain things start to happen, whichever. What happens is it takes a whole entire 7 days for the real situation, or the real, I want to say, how can I phrase it, the real situation to actually present itself, whichever. All these little small things start to happen, whatever, and then the overall ending of what will happen, whichever comes out. And in one of the scenes you see where the girls have, watched, one of them, watches it, and certain things happen, whichever. And that's when, as an investigative reporter, Naomi Watts' character comes into play. Somebody, close, wants her to investigate, situation. She had this little, at first she doesn't know it's a video. They just think something happened, if you could have saw her face, and it's just so graphic how she was in the closet, whatever she saw, whatever, how it left this impression on her face just, as if, somebody sucked the life out of it. It was just horrific. And it was something, like I said, totally different. I had never seen anything like that, and I so enjoyed that. And then watching Naomi's character go to all the different places that the girl went to, goes into this cabin, out God knows where, see a video with no lining of it showing the name of it. So that's the one she picks, which was very interesting, but needless to say she does. She, of course, watches it, and then, of course, the phone rings, picks it up, you hear the 7 days and all, she's all freaking out, whatever. And eventually she starts to pick up certain things, but then in the midst of that, it speds up her time frame, because now her son ends up she catches him in the middle of the night watching it. And that's when she knows she has to figure out what's going on, what's in regards to, the little girl, that's in the actual video, what happened, who's this woman in the mirror with the hair. There's other little layers to this movie, which opens up a whole bunch of other questions, about what happened, to the young girl, why did she end up in the well. Just a great movie. And I will say this, there's, towards the ending, that scene with the guy who is actually the father of her son. The scene of him, and I hope you all have seen this. If you haven't, I'm sorry, but when he, of course, ends up watching himself, because at the time she didn't realize he should have never watched it, and he sees the scene, and you see him watching the TV, he's just there, and the thing comes out the TV. I'm like, really, bro? And you're there? I was just like, oh no. As soon as I saw that thing crawl to I would have been out of there. The fact that he fell down and kept staring at it, we all lost our minds, and they're like, what the hell are you doing? You should have been gone. So I just had to say that, because that was one of the parts that pissed me off to no end, because nobody in their right mind, I would think, would be standing there watching that. You would be kind of shocked, but then the shock would wore off real fast. Let me get out here before I die. So, and then he ended up dying. So it was no way to deal with it. But that was a good movie. Now, another one I wanted to do, just like, is I want to talk about Blade 2. One of my favorite movies, literally, of all time. I had to put it in there. I won't say it was more horror. Definitely, sci-fi, a little bit of a thrill aspect, so to speak. But, of course, what can I say? Guillermo del Toro, the director. We have Wesley Snipes. We have Ron Perlman. We have Norman Reedus. We have Donnie Yen. That cast on that was... And then Luke Goss. Great cast. We saw the first Blade. It came out a couple years prior to that. He did, of course, a follow up. I will say this: even though I love the first one, I love the second one even more. It was just perfection. Him dealing, with this particular, type of, creature. You think it's some type of vampire, but it has some sort of, trait or something that is, killing, and it was causing these, people to kind of turn into this type of, I don't even know what to call it at the time, whichever, but it's something that definitely evolves, whichever, and Luke Goss is the kind of like the carrier of it, unbeknownst to him, one of the people, part of the team, their father actually is his father, whichever, and it's almost like he's disowned him. He knows what's really going on, not explaining a lot, so they're out here trying to deal with the situation. They bring him into the fold, all the scenes, with the action, of course, Wesley puts in the good fight scenes, of course, between him and Luke Goss, their fight scene, which was good, the body slamming, you thought you were watching freaking wrestling. It was awesome. I loved it. I loved everything about that movie. The third one, there were some scenes because I like that Jessica Biel was in it, and of course Ryan Reynolds. I'm a fan of him. That part, but the overall story of the third installment just was rather lackluster. Now, if you all know with the Blade franchise is going to get a new resurgence. Wesley will not be coming back. We're going to be getting Mahershala Ali. He's going to take over the helm, courtesy now of Kevin Feige, making it known recently at the during Comic-Con. So just excited to see what he's going to do. A lot of us, have a soft spot for Wesley doing, because we feel like, he still has so much more he could show us with Blade, but we're going to open with welcome arms to Ali to see how he can, bring it to life, again for us. It's been quite some time since we've seen, a new Blade movie, so I just want to kind of point that out. Now, another one for that year, I love Dog Soldiers. That's a werewolf movie. Love that. It was starring, I want to say, what is it, Kevin McKidd, Liam Cunningham from Game of Thrones, and then Sam Pertwee. He's, of course, many movies. Of course, he was on the show Gotham. I met him in person. He's hilarious. He's such an awesome guy. This is, of course, some guys who are, of course, military trained. They do a night type of training of sorts to find another group that ends up getting lost, whichever, in a particular camp, and they have to go and figure out, like a rescue out mission. Come to find out, there's a lot more going on from where they end up landing to, find said team. They have been killed. They end up dealing with these vicious, individuals, not realizing these are not individuals. These are creatures. These are werewolves. They come across a zoologist woman who was out there, which is right there. Should have been a red flag. Out of all this that's going on, you're alive. And these guys were military trained, but you're out here. You're, investigating, learning, trying to study them, Keep that in mind. That was really interesting, and just seeing how they're trying their best to stay alive. They end up going to some sort of like farmhouse, trying to just fend them off until daylight, because by then, of course, hopefully the werewolves have changed, back to human form, they can get out of there. But, other things start to happen, and certain things happen where everything is not, told to them. Certain lies have been told, and it puts them even in more danger. And basically, a lot of them die. A favorite of mine, he ends up dying. One of them does live out of all the people within the movie. How fitting, But it was a good werewolf movie. I enjoyed that one immensely. That's another one that's already in my collection. A little different in the way the werewolves looked, compared to what I'm used to seeing, how they look, but definitely effective. A lot of bloodshed, definitely some gore, a lot of, just the artillery, the gun shedding, whatever. It was really good. It was definitely suspenseful, and I was here for it, and I actually enjoyed it. So I just want to note that one as well. Now we're moving to 2003. This is one of the ones I'm probably going to just do like a synopsis, whichever, and all that, because this was done in foreign language in regards to watching it, and this has to do with one of my first ones, High Tension. I actually enjoyed this movie. You would almost think when you're watching it, and let me just read off of it a little bit because I wanted to note that. Of course, beautiful French woman, Alex, travels out of country to visit her family and brings along one of her dear friends, Marie. Soon after they get settled into a secluded home, Alex's parents are brutally attacked by some psycho truck driver, played by Philippe Nahon, and who proceeds to stalk the two women as well. When the killer kidnaps Alex in his truck, Marie hides in the back to try and rescue her, but the bloodshed is far from over. And yes, that movie was so beyond gory. I really enjoyed it, because when you would see it at times, it was like a mind bleep. I won't say the real word I want to use. Seeing it from just kind of from Alex's point of view, how things were kind of, not Alex, but more of Marie's side, whichever. Because Alex is the one that was actually kidnapped. And just trying to get to her. At first, I was thinking at the time when I first watched it, is it her doing this? Is it him? It was just, oh my goodness, it was a lot going on. Just the way this guy was, killing people left and right, slitting throats. It was really good. I'm here for the gore too. Definitely more suspenseful. Thriller aspect, not very horror-like, but still around that compass a little bit of the creepy factor, which made me really, really enjoy it. But yes, it was definitely with subtitles. That's why I said yes. I didn't mind it like that. Some movies I don't mind that at all. It does not faze me one bit, but definitely enjoyed that one. Now, another movie I enjoyed is Dreamcatcher. This was one of those movies I enjoyed growing up. I have that in my collection. Stars Thomas Jane, Damian Lewis, Timothy Olyphant. We have Donnie Wahlberg, just to name a few. I think Jason Lee as well. About some young boys who help a young little boy being basically bullied or whatever, which is played by Donnie Wahlberg's character, but also them doing this great deed. They end up getting powers, So of course it shows them circa years later, and of course they come together. They go out to some secluded little wooded area to stay at like a little cabin, whatever. And unbeknownst to them, they come across some, old man, whatever. He's out there, like, how did he get there, whichever. Vehicle broke down, whatever, and they probably bring him in, and he looks like he's out of it, frostbite, whichever, because he actually had a woman with him. So you see all those certain things that happen, whichever. Come to find out, there's a bathroom scene, very graphic, and let's just say that he eventually dies, whatever. We come across this little creature, something that was inside of him, whichever, and that's when things start to really pick up with the movie. We're dealing with some sort of invasion, of some, aliens of sorts. Morgan Freeman's in this movie as well. Tom Sizemore is in this film as well. Of course, Morgan Freeman, at first you think he's a good guy, but he really is not a good guy. Tom Sizemore is the good guy, whichever. He ends up trying to help Thomas, Jane, of course. Damian Lewis' character becomes kind of possessed by this creature from the explosion of this red powder that gets into him and takes him on a journey, to killing off a couple of his friends, trying to get to Donnie Wahlberg's character, who ends up showing up, and that little battle between the creatures, the good one and the bad one. It was really good. I love that movie. I thought it was just one of those things I'd never seen. I enjoyed the way it was. And yeah, I can't say enough about it. To this day, I still love that. And if it comes on, or if I just want to pull that out, and I pull that out quite often, so especially when it first came out. So I just want to note that. The next one is Underworld. Cannot say enough about this one. This one came out 2003. Directed by Len Wiseman, stars Scott Speedman, Kate Beckinsale. This was one of those movies when I first saw it, a little freaked out. Like I said, it takes a lot for me to watch werewolf movies. I made that known in my top 20 when I talked about American Werewolf in London. If you all saw that, you could find it. Trust and believe me. Yeah, I just don't really like to watch them. Mostly because of the transformation. But needless to say, I ended up watching this and I really did enjoy this one. I enjoyed actually all of them. I like the prequel when they did, with the Lycans, with, what is his name? Michael Sheen. And then, the ones that Kate Beckinsale did, after that, when she came back and did a couple of them. She did one, I want to say a couple years ago, was not good. I didn't even watch it. I saw the trailer for it, and I could see all the CGI. I was just not feeling it. They should not even have done that, but it is what it is. It's out there. But this one, of course, her being Celine, she being kind of like, like a hunter, and she's being told that the Lycans are the ones that killed her family. Unbeknownst to her, that was a lie. The head of the vampires, whatever and all, was actually the one that killed her family, whatever and all, and took her under the wing, whatever and all that, and tore her all her life, whichever. Scott Speedman's character, of course, he's a part of a certain, calling of people with a bloodline. Of course, Michael Sheen's character is trying to get to him, whatever. Of course, he gets bit, but then eventually Celine gets with him, they, have their moment, and she bites him to keep him alive, whatever. So of course, having these two bloodlines, the vampires and the Lycans, whatever, he takes on a full different type of transformation, which was really epic. I love the fight sequence he has, with the main leader of the vampires, whichever. It was done very well. Oh my goodness, when he finally ended up having that transformation, he just went to town on him. And that's why I said when I saw that one and saw the second one, that one is when you get to see him really show a lot more of his fight sequence, because in the first one it's mostly him in human form. You don't get to really see him until towards the end of the third and final act of the movie, where he gets to like really hone his skills. But it's like, of course, you're now a creature of sorts, and how quickly he's able to protect himself with whatever. You would never think that this gentleman, now that he's some sort of like a half breed of sorts, could fight like that. So that was really interesting, and I really enjoyed that. That's why I think I kind of end up really enjoying it so much that as more of them came out, I was able to get past, a little bit of my eerie, ness of watching like, ugh, and just watched it. And so I enjoyed it for that. So moving for that. Now going to 2004, the two movies that stand out for me the most in this one, the first one is The Grudge. Now, granted, we already know the original, which is the Japanese Ju-on, which came out, I want to say, was it 2002, I think, 2001, 2002. I saw that, enjoyed that one, of course. So when they did the remake, I was like, okay, let me see how they're going to do this Americanized one. And it was nice because they brought the director in that one. That was really good. And it was with Sarah Michelle Gellar, excuse me. And I really enjoyed that take on it. It was done very well and very effective. I will say this, when they did the sequel to it, I'm like, why? It was like, it was just not even needed. They could have just left it just with that one and that was fine. But I love the overall premise. If you all don't know, just give it to you, because speaking of that, I just did a trailer reaction to a remake of The Grudge, which is going to be coming out next year. And this one will be starring, I want to say, Lin Shaye, John Woo, also Betty Gilpin and Andrea Riseborough. I just did it like the other day, and it looks really good. And basically, they tweaked a little bit of the storyline in regards to characters, but it's still the substance of it is, based off, about this a house that, some deaths happen in the house, whichever, and it's taken on an evil kind of, supernatural entity, whichever. So anybody who, comes into the house and, comes into contact with that will die. And that's kind of a good premise for a movie. So when I first saw, like I stated a while back, and then seeing this one, it was just like, oh, okay, done very well for a remake of the movie. And I really, like I said, enjoyed that one. Wasn't sure how to take it, like I said, knowing that they're going to do a new one. I didn't know how to think. I know it's being produced by Sam Raimi, so that's why I said, okay, let me see what the trailer's going to offer. And when I saw the trailer, I was like, okay, this looks pretty good. I think I'm going to probably go out and see this. So I am looking forward to it. We do plan to watch it. And then most likely I'll probably do like a little review on that, so I can do like a little bit of a comparison between all three of them, all together, so I can just kind of really dig into that actual movie. But again, that trailer was good, the most recent one for the new one coming out. So we're moving from that. Now this movie definitely was one that left an impression on me, and this has to do with Saw. This is what brought me to the love I have for enjoying the movies by James Wan. And then also Leigh Whannell. Back then, didn't know who he was. So I was familiar with James Wan, but getting used to Leigh Whannell being in movies, and of course also doing movies where he's writing and of course directing himself, and of course this starring him and also Carrie Elwes. Of course, let me read it for you. You all should know this pronouncement in regards to this one. This has to do with these two individuals played by Leigh and Carrie regain consciousness while chained to the pipes at the either end of the filthy bathroom as the two men realize they have been trapped by a sadistic serial killer nicknamed Jigsaw. It says they must complete his perverse puzzle to live. Flashbacks relate to the fates of each of the previous victims. Dr. Gordon's wife, Monica Carter, and the young daughter, Mackenzie Vega, are forced to watch his torture circuit video. And it was really good. I will say this just to build up, because towards the end of the movie, and I will never forget that, because as much as I enjoyed everything that culminates throughout the movie, that last part of the movie when they finally get out of there, to see that particular body that was right there the whole time, and then the fact that he got up and walked out. I remember distinctly when everybody literally gasped in that theater at that scene. That literally shocked the hell out of me, because I literally freaked out like, are you kidding me? He was just there the whole time, seeing. That was just unbelievable. I was just like, okay, I'm going to continue watching whoever this director is and whatever he's putting out. Clearly, and he's put out a body of good work over the years. Of course, with Insidious. We have, of course, now recently coming up with he produced, what was it in regards to, I just saw The Swamp Thing. He's was a director for was Aquaman. I mean, just putting his hands in a whole bunch of different hats of different types of genres now, but definitely horror is the staple, and I love it. This movie definitely, the thriller, suspense thriller, definitely the gore factor. This had opened up so many of the sequels to this particular franchise. We had, of course, so many different Saw movies. I think it went up to the 6, and then we had a most recent one I saw a couple years ago called Jigsaw, which I didn't mind. I actually enjoyed it, but then it kind of fell off for deaf ears. Now, supposedly, we're going to be getting a kind of like a resurgence, a remake of it, where it's being I think directed or whatever by Chris Rock. Samuel L. Jackson's going to be in it. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see. I'm curious to see because I'm not used to Chris Rock being attached, but I just had to throw that out there. I said, if any of you all didn't know that, yes, we should be getting it, and I'm looking forward to seeing this trailer hopefully soon. With the film wrapped up, I want to say a month or so ago, so hopefully we'll see something soon because I'm really ready to see how this is going to turn out, because I would have never thought Chris Rock in horror. I'm sorry, I'm so used to him being definitely in drama and definitely in comedy, but never in horror, so that's going to be something to behold for me to see. So moving from that, now for 2005, there are two notable mentions, but I'm going to talk about the one that really stand out to me because I bought this on DVD and I was watching it often, faithfully. This has to do with the movie The Descent. This has to do with, of course, a particular woman who has, family trauma. She loses her husband and her child in a freak car accident, and of course, a year has passed. All the girls want to do, what do they call it? Like exploring caves. And needless to say, they explore a certain cave I wish they did not explore, and they come across these creatures that live underground. They can't see, but they can hear. And, of course, in the midst of it at first, you don't realize as they kind of hear stuff, little awakenings of things of that nature, and eventually they have to wise up and try to find a way to get out of there. Now, granted, the woman who plays Sarah, she's the main one at first, is kind of having, difficulty, whatever. No, she's still dealing with her situation with losing her husband and child, but then dealing with, what is out here, whatever. And for some reason, out of all the ladies, the shift in her that happens throughout that movie, where all of a sudden it's almost like she got this resurgence of backbone came out of nowhere. She did a full 360. It was like no time for crying. I gotta buck up and I gotta get the hell up out of here. Of course, some of the girls do get killed. One in particular who deserves it after certain things come out, certain things that were kept from Sarah. She's able to hold her own. Sarah does find out some information that she was none too happy to find out, courtesy of one of the girls who ends up getting hurt in a situation. And let's just say that they're the ones that end up being left standing, whichever, unbeknownst to both of them having to fend off these creatures, that are coming from. But one thing I say, Sarah's character, she holds her own really well. Once she kind of figures out what they're doing, what they're about, and she kind of is able to blend in to do what she needs to do. Because there's a scene where you see if she's able to climb up this thing where it looks like all these dead carcasses or whatever to kind of breathe the grass. It's almost like they use it as a hiding little spot, whatever, but it does open up, but they won't go up there because there's all this light and their eyes are so sensitive because they've been underground for so long. That's why they can't really see it. They can just, move around, like I said, with hearing certain things, the smallest little hearing, water, whatever, don't have anything with lighting, whatever, but that was really interesting. I like that. It was something different. They did do a sequel. We still see the girls in the sequel and all, and we get introduced some other characters, whichever, and they're making them go back, whichever. It was just ridiculous because it was like they didn't have nothing else to find, whatever. They're bringing these people, and it's like, you all don't know what you're dealing with. She's trying to explain it to you all, but you all don't want to listen, so this is what's going to happen. You're going to get killed. She's going to most likely get out of it again, and that's how things end up turning out anyway. So it's just like ridiculous. They could have just left it at the one. It's like there was no need to make a secondary, but whatever. They could do another one if they want, just do a better storyline because that crap was some nonsense. But it is what it is. Now another one as a notable mention for me is the movie Hostel. That was another movie that was directed by Eli Roth. That man's mind, it takes me to places because it's like, what goes through your mind with the things that you want to direct, buddy, that you put out all these little different type of movies that are just gore infested. I'm here for it, because it's something a little different. Of course, these guys, as a group of them, they go to a particular area and they come across some people who want to show them like this hedonism, whatever. They get caught up in it, and let's just say they got too caught up in it that they end up getting captured and, basically, tortured. You see these, they're down in some underground, locked up, whatever, and these individuals, they're women in one room and this, and you have people who are, laced up, in leathers, chainsaws, cutting off body parts. It was just ridiculous. Jay Henderson's character, of course, eventually is able to get out. He tries to save a female. Poor thing, the guy gouged her eye out, whatever. She's like, no, I'm not going back home. I'm not going nowhere. She's like, peace out. Suicide, unfortunately. But he gets upper hand when he gets with the guy who kind of set all this stuff in motion. When he finds him in the bathroom, he lets him have it, and he deserved to have that throat slit. It was just, oh gosh, it's like he acted like he was such a great guy, whatever, and introduce him to these people, and these other, people, take them somewhere else, unbeknownst as basically get payment for bringing more people for them to basically torture. It was just, it was literally like a bloodbath, literally straight up gore fest. Again, here for it. Now, another notable mention was The Exorcism of Emily Rose. I have seen so many different exorcism movies, but I did enjoy this one. It had Jennifer Carpenter in this one and Laura Linney, about a girl dealing with possession, whichever, and of course the priest that deals with the situation, they feel like, he must have overstepped his bounds, whichever, and almost like this could have been all made up, whichever, and certain things happen where you see all things that led up to this, certain things that he had, kept in regards to documentation, audio, whichever, to prove that he made the right decision to try to free this girl of this evil possession that took over her body. She just really could no longer go on. She became very weak, whichever, and certain things happened. When Jennifer Carpenter played that character, she did a phenomenal job. I really enjoyed watching her in that movie. That was a good exercise. I've seen many, like I said, of course, I love the original movie, The Exorcist. Of course, you can never go wrong with the original. And of course, they made a couple after that. And then you have, like, what is it, The Exorcism, The Last Exorcism, The Exorcism of Molly Hartley. I mean, you name it, you throw a little exorcism, they just forever making them, the possession of this and the possession of that. But out of all of them, this is one of my actual favorite ones that I like to watch. So I just want to kind of note that one. Now, moving on, y'all, 2006. This is going to probably be lengthy. I'm probably going to go over an hour, but I don't care. I'm just trying not to talk about too long, but just give a little bit of the ones I really like. I just can't help it. Now, 2006, I had a couple of them that I love. The first one is Slither. I loved that movie. That has Michael Rooker, Elizabeth Banks, and Nathan Fillion. That one was hysterical. Of course, Michael Rooker's character coming across, something in the woods, whichever. And of course, he's like, why you touch it? And he pokes it, and the thing comes out and gets into his body and kind of transmits to his brain. And it starts this whole chain of certain things happening because he's very, conservative, very protective of his wife, doesn't want too many people around her, whatever. All of a sudden, when this situation happens, he comes home, he's a little bit more playful, whichever. She sees a change in him. Unbeknownst to her, is a full change. He starts doing certain things. He has to relieve himself of certain things, with what this thing is doing to his body. That he takes over this woman's body. He starts putting stuff injected into her, which is these small little slugs, of course, that kind of get out eventually. She grows into this big balloon, whatever. The thing rips her body open, and all these slugs get into other people, start infecting them. And with that, the situation happens where when it gets into other people, it's almost like they can read his mind and his thoughts, whichever. So when he's, trying to, get to his wife, whatever, she wants no part, but he's not her husband anymore. He's changed. His body's changing. He looks grotesque, whatever. So it's almost like, anybody who's infected, if they get closer, they're trying to find a way to get to her. And eventually he does get to her. He tries to, bring her back home, and he's talking through them. And, oh, you tried to do this. You tried to kill me. And, all these different things. And it's just, it's so gory and nasty. The scene with the girl in the bathtub, whatever, the things falling off the walls, whatever, her family gets infected, because once it gets inside of you, it's a wrap. They're no longer. So the main thing is they have to kill Michael Rooker's character to finally, unleash these things so they will die. But with that, the people who have been affected, they will not survive. That's the unfortunate part. So a lot of the people in that town end up dying. So yes, that was a hilarious movie. And like I said, Michael Rooker, he's been in many things over the years I love, but this is one of my favorites he did. Definitely not too horror aspect, but definitely thriller, a little bit of comedy edged in it a little bit, but overall suspenseful. But I just enjoyed it. It was just one of my favorites. To this day I love to watch that. Another one, and this is a remake. This is The Hill Has Eyes. I love the remake. Now, I know the original came out in 1977. Girl was a baby. No, nothing about that. But I did see it later on after the fact. I was curious about watching it prior to the actual remake that came out in 2006. And then, of course, they did another one. I think it was, 84 years later. Now, with this one, of course, they did this one. And then they did another one a couple of years later, the part 2 for The Hill Have Eyes for the remake. This particular remake, I really enjoyed. This one stars, what's his name? Aaron Stafford. It had Vanessa Shaw. We had, what's the other individual was in this one? Oh gosh, Kathleen Quinlan. She's been in many movies I love. A family, on a trip, whichever. going through like, like mountains, whatever. They, make a pit stop, whichever, and they come across some man who's a gas, like a, what is a gas stop owner, whatever. Unbeknownst to them, whatever, he's trying to give them direction, but certain things happen. He ends up switching on them. They go through another area. Because at first he was going to let them go. But then he goes, and of course you see how they're driving. The chain comes out, so he can kind of basically bust out their tires. They're stuck. So they have to find a way to get back. So of course, it shows the father shows them trying to get back to the bus stop. And of course, that's when the guy realizes what he had done, whichever. And of course, they grab the father, burn him up, whatever. Of course, they, get into the little bunker, and then they, trying to assault the daughters, take the baby. It's just ridiculous. And of course, he's out there burning, they're in the back, whatever, is being distracted. It's almost like all set up like a ploy. As much as they look like they're, cannibalistic and just disgusting, whatever, they have a strategic plan of how they, get their prey. And it was very effective. And let's just say that to the point where the husband played by Aaron Sanford, he actually has to go find his baby girl, and the other kids, the son and one of the daughters who's able to get away. Vanessa Shaw's character is killed, unfortunately. They're stuck there having to deal with some of the creatures trying to fend him off. And of course he deals with stuff, losing fingers and whatnot. It was just a mess. Bloody, gory. I was here for it. Again, we were loving the fight scenes with him and some of those ugly creatures. So I don't even call him human. And it was just a fun all to be had. I loved every minute of that movie. Like I said, the sequel to that remake, garbage, whatever. Seemed like some little, kids in the military or whatever and all that. You see one girl who was, I think, pregnant, whatever. He ripped the baby out. Just, some of it was definitely gory, but the overall storyline was kind of boring to me. This one I like more because it was based off similar to what happened in the original, so I actually enjoyed that one. So, but with that said, those are my favorites for that year. Now for 2007, the one that sticks out and the one that I watched faithfully, even when it came on DVD to the point where I scratched the DVD, 30 Days of Night. This is the one that stars Josh Hartnett and Melissa George and Danny Hudson. That was one of the movies that really introduced me to Danny Hudson. He wasn't on my radar, but after I saw him in this one, oh yes. This is one where this main individual, this is the one I want to say is a certain part of certain state where it gets dark, and it's dark for like a good month, a good 30 days. So a lot of people leave on a boat, whatever, and they go. And then, you're stuck there until that many, weeks have passed before it's considered daylight, whichever. And it's unfortunate because, of course, Melissa and Josh's characters are, I think, want to say the resident, police, officers in the, in the area, whichever. So they're dealing with a situation where, they're finding certain people's cell phones have been burned, certain things have been done, they're losing power, whatever, and all that, because this particular individual is setting up for Danny Hudson's character, who is the main leader of these vampires that come into this town and wreak havoc. They want to kill people, maybe, not even, some of them turn, whichever, and then once they're done with their bloodshed, burn the whole city as if this city never, never existed, like they're going from, area to area or town to town, whichever, causing havoc, whichever. And just seeing how a lot of the characters, as many that can survive, are trying to stick it out for days at a time. You'll see scenes where they're in a house, and then they are, days have passed, whatever, they'll probably go to like a, closed up like a little shop to get a little food, whatever, some reinforcements, whichever, and then go back to a house, whatever, and just stay there because, of course, after a while, the vampires could try to get hip using, certain humans to walk like, help me, whatever, jumping up on the tops of roofs, whatever, and all, just trying to see who was going to come out from hiding so they can see if anybody else is still alive, And it was just really good. The fight scene between Josh Hartnett and Danny Hudson's character was really good. He got what he deserved, and I'm talking about Danny. Poor Josh's character, being that he had to change himself so he could have a level playing field with him to get the upper hand on him with his strength, because with them being those vampires, they have a certain amount of strength, the agility, their speed, so it was really, really good. I love that movie. That is one of my favorite vampire movies. I love that thing. That was done very, very well. I can't say enough about that. That truly is the only movie that year I really enjoyed fully. I can't even say it enough. There's nothing else, so I'm just going to move on to 2008. Now, 2008, the first one I want to talk about is the movie The Strangers. Now, this one, of course, stars Liv Tyler and Scott Speedman. Of course, as a character where they're, at a little, secluded little home, whichever. She's there, and of course, a friend shows up. Of course, Scott comes on, he's thinking of some, intruder. Come to find out it was a friend, but then they're dealing with some real intruders. And there's three people who, of course, two of them are completely masked. One of them is wearing a mask of sorts. It's made out of some sort of, sheet, whichever. And they're just basically terrorizing them. This was something I'd never seen. I really enjoyed this particular movie. Some of the things they were doing in the movie were just pissing me off. I'm like, are you kidding me? It's like, you have shotguns, you have this. How is it that they got the upper hand on you? But let's just remember, I have to remind myself sometimes, this is a movie. But it's like, sometimes it's like, please stop making them dumb, because I just really cannot believe that some of these things you would actually do. So, but it is, for the suspense that it gave, it was very effective. Of course, towards the end, where they're stabbing him, whatever, and they're stabbing her, whichever, and of course you see them get out, the mask off, they run into some two boys, whichever, the boys eventually show up at the house, whatever, and find them. And then you see how the end, she ends up, having that long gas, she ends up living. We don't get to see what happens. I did say years ago, I said, even when a most recent movie came out, The Strangers Pray at Night, that I saw last year, don't even get me started. Some of the stuff that happened in that thing brought me back to that feeling about this one, about no, this family didn't do some of the things they did. But I will say, when I was hearing they were doing this, I was really wanting them to go back to her, trying to find the ones that did this. But how would she know? She doesn't know what they look like. They could be long gone. They used some random home. I don't know if they were scoping them out. You never know. And that was the thing with this particular one. And that one, in Pray at Night, like at the end, the girl, she just said, said, why are you doing it? She's like, because we wanted to. And I love when she just killed her. I was like, just kill her. She got to go. She was pissing me off to no end, whichever. She got exactly what she deserved. But needless to say, yes, that was a really good one. I really enjoyed that movie. So, yes, from that one, moving on. Now, 2009, I have quite a bit of a three. The first one, Drag Me to Hell. This one directed by Sam Raimi. I'm so happy because, like I said, anything with Sam Raimi doing horror, I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. This one stars Justin Long again, and another girl, I cannot remember her full name, but I know it's Allison, but it's a lawman. I couldn't remember it. Let me give you the synopsis of this one, because I don't know if some people have seen this one. If you haven't, you need to make sure you do. This has to do with Christine Brown, played by Allison, and a loving boyfriend, Justin, and a great job at the Los Angeles bank. But her heavenly life becomes hellish when, in an effort to impress her boss, she denies an old woman's request for an extension of her home loan. In retaliation, the crone places a curse on Christine, threatening her soul with eternal damnation. Christine seeks a psychic's help to break the curse, but the price to save her soul may be more than she can pay. And let's just say that woman put her through hell before she went to hell. Basically, in a nutshell, the things that are happening during the actual part with the psychic during the reading, the parts where she would run into the woman in her car, when her hand was in her mouth, it was just all these different things. But I will tell you, when she thought that she had dealt with her and buried and all this other stuff, and was able to find the stuff that would cause her not to be basically burned or gone to hell, she thought she got out of it. And when you see the ending, how it happens when she's with her man and all that, and she's being dragged into hell and burning as it's happening, and Justin Long's character's face just killing me, because it brought me back to the Jeepers Creepers, the sheer scared and terror of his face. I mean, he straight has that face down pat. But yes, that was a good one. Like I said, Sam Raimi doing horror, I love it. I love it. A lot of people, when they talk about Sam Raimi, I always want to talk about Spider-Man. I said, no, we're going to talk about horror, because that's what introduced me to him. And furthermore, he's supposed to be working on a new horror movie. I don't know nothing about it, but I'm looking forward to that, because I'm here for anything he does that encompasses anything with regards to horror. But I just wanted to note that one. That was one of my faves during this year. Jennifer's Body. Megan Fox, Amanda Seyfried. Love that movie. That was one of the movies besides when she did Transformers I actually enjoyed. And I really enjoyed this because, of course, it's considered like more, a thriller of sorts. Of course, let's read that. A demon takes possession of her high school hottie, whichever, because it's like these guys did some sort of, curse or something on her, whatever. She's out in the woods with them and all that, unbeknownst to them, what they have done to her. Just a whole hot daggone mess, whichever. But let's just say she's, one of the most beautiful girls in school and all that, and she uses her wiles, whatever, to deal with some of these guys, and she becomes very evil. Just ridiculous. And of course, Amanda realizes something happened to her friend, so she tries to combat it, because she's starting to kill, some of their, their guy friends, and she ends up having to battle her. With that, she ends up dealing with the situation. She gets up her hand and deals with Megan Fox's character. But then what happens is that after all this she's been through, it just leaves this tick in her mind where she ends up getting locked up. She eventually gets out, and she goes for the guys who did this to her girl, her best friend. And she gets payback on them, and it was such a good part. I love when she gets them back. It's like, you go on about your lives, and you've ruined my friend's life, that she's now dead, and here I am locked up in an asylum. it was beautiful. I love that movie. That was a good movie. I could watch that again. Another one. I didn't know if I was gonna put this on, but I said no. Let me put this on because it was something I'd never seen, and it was just really out there. This has to do with the movie Splice. This is this is a movie that's starring Adrian Brody and I want to say Sarah Polley. This has to do with them, especially in hybrids of species, and they create this one species. Of course, as it grows at a fast rate. At first, it looks like some sort of species that's like a creature, but eventually it starts to grow. It starts to look like it's taking the shape of a form of a young girl. And with that, of course, they're learning about her girl. She looks, of course, like a girl from the face a little bit, but certain parts of her body, that when you see her feet, whatever, definitely creature-like. And certain things happen, over the course of them, certain learning things, her becoming a little bit more, aware of her body, whichever, starting to have a little bit of a keen eye to Adrian Brody's character. The character, when he gets with her, I'm like, you got intimate with her. You're messing with a creature. I couldn't believe they went there, but they did. And then when that happens, certain things start to happen where they have to protect themselves and protect her. She's kind of out of control a little bit. And then she kind of starts to, that buildup of, anger being the way she's being treated, locked down. They had her kind of tied up, whatever, latched down, whichever, certain things. Because Sarah Polley is just like, she's discussing with her husband. You've slept with some woman, this creature, female, whatever you want to call it, but then eventually it gets out. Certain things happen with it where it eventually changes its form and it turns into a man. Don't even get me started with that. Takes advantage of Sarah Polley's character. She ends up pregnant, and then of course they're able to kill the creature, and now she's embedded this whatever the DNA from this creature into her, and now she's carrying something in her body. And when I think about this movie, it just reminds me of Species in the fact that it's some sort of, extraterrestrial certain thing of a species that's spliced, whichever, similar to that, where this one, she looks like a straight human, whichever, human body form, but she actually is a creature inside with her that can come out at, and basically to kind of protect herself, whichever, but then use it somewhat for filming wise, but then she wants to procreate, and she keeps going through a couple of guys until she, eventually gets pregnant by somebody who's just a good guy, whichever, if you all recall from the movie, whichever. But yes, that movie as well. I love me some Species back in the day. So, but yes, I just couldn't believe what I was watching when I saw that movie, which is like, are you kidding me? So, but from that, okay, moving on. Now we're in 2010. This particular movie, I can't say enough, but this has to do with Insidious. That movie definitely left an impression on me. This one starred Patrick Wilson and Rose Byrne. And this one, of course, was directed, I want to say, by, is it James Wan? I think it was James Wan, excuse me. My mind went completely blank. This one also has Lin Shaye in this one. This one gave us, 4 of the movies in this one in the franchise. I think the last one I saw, which came out was a year or so ago, was about a year ago, 2018, Insidious: The Last Key. So, okay, I like the first one. I did enjoy the second one. Third one was okay. The fourth one, like I said, was okay as well. But yes, the first one definitely left an impression. If you all, remember, in regards to both the parents take drastic measures in their new home that's haunted. Their comatose son is possessed by a malevolent entity. And yes, that movie, and then certain things come out from that whole situation. When you see a scene where it shows certain things in regards to her husband, Patrick Wilson, inside of a camera from a situation that happens with a scene with Lin Shaye, that scene, oh my God, that freaking thing was so freaking creepy. Oh my goodness, I love that movie. And like I said, James Wan, seeing Saw, and then all these couple years later pass, and we get to see Insidious and all that, and then from there, of course, dealing with the movies like The Conjuring, and and then Annabelle, whichever, and just keeps going. Just the horror aspect of him. That's why I say when it comes to horror, he can't do no wrong. He puts stuff out, whichever, stuff that's totally different in regards to different types of storylines for all these different type of movies, with The Conjuring, of course, and then Insidious, and then of course with Saw. So I just love that it's still all about thriller and horror, but it's different types of stories. So it's like everything doesn't all look alike, which is lovely and it's real nice. So just want to talk about that one real quick. I will say I would do a notable mention on this movie, Let Me In. This one starred Chloe Grace Moretz. That was one of the first ones I think I saw her that I really remember who she was. That was a good, and that was considered a remake from a movie called Let the Right One In. That one was good because that's the original one, and this was considered the remake. Now, this one, let me give you a little bit of an understanding of this. Bullied at school, neglected at home, a 12-year-old boy played by Cody Smith McPhee spends his days plotting vengeance on his, tormentors, and spends his nights spying on other residents of the apartment complex. His sole friend, Abby, played by Chloe, is a strange girl who comes out only at nighttime. Both outcasts, the two form a strong bond. When Abby's caretaker disappears amid a series of gruesome murders, Owen begins to suspect that she is hiding a terrible secret, and yes, she is. And let's just say that one, as much as I didn't mind the original, this one I liked a lot more. I remember going to the theater to see this one. It also starred Richard Jenkins. He was considered the caretaker to her character in this one, all and very effective. You know, just really sad how things happen with his character and how he ended up, you know, getting to an age because she stays young, but he kept getting old. They had a picture where they show that I think is in my collage somewhere where you see where they were both young. So you clearly see a lot's going on. Like he said, she is hiding a secret. So if you all have not seen the movie, I don't think I want to spoil it for you, but it was really, I really enjoyed it, and I thought it was done very, very well. So that was one notable. Another notable mention is Devil by M. Night Shyamalan. I love that movie. It stars, Bokeem Woodbine and Chris Messina, about these particular individuals, you know, stuck inside of an actual elevator, and there's some sort of, you know, evil, you know, supernatural entity in there, and they're just one by one, some of them being killed, and it's almost like they're blaming each other for the deaths. It was such a good movie. I know a lot of people don't really, you know, do a lot of the M. Night movies because it's almost like, you know, he'll do a couple of them that they think are great, and as soon as he comes out with something that you could say some people might not like or not getting or whatever, or grasping or understanding, all of a sudden they don't really like it. I like it because it's different. All his stuff is very different, and I like it for that. This one was one of those ones that definitely stood out for me, because that's one thing I do not like. I cannot stand the thought of being something so closed off that I cannot get out. I start to feel like I cannot breathe, and the elevator is one of those instances I would never want to experience, where I'm shut in a space and I cannot open them doors. I'm about to be going through the shaft. Get me out. So that's one of the things that made it really creepy off the cuff. But then every time the lights go out and certain things, you see a body, you know, Bokeem Woodbine's head turned around, he's laying on the ground, he's dead, whichever, somebody's hovering over him with black eyes. It was just, yes, I was here for it. So moving from that, now notable mention, another world movie, y'all, The Wolfman. This one starring Benicio del Toro, Emily Blunt, and Anthony Hopkins. Now the original movie for The Wolfman came out, I think, 1941. I remember that one. But this is a good remake. A lot of people did not like it. I enjoyed it for what it was. I like the way they did it, you know, in regards to his storyline. Of course, he came back when he found out his brother had been killed, whichever, and unbeknownst to him, he was, you know, a performer, you know, so they kind of showed a little bit of that. And of course, one night, it's almost like they were some sort of kind of carnival, whatever. This creature's out, a young boy goes too far out, he goes out to try to save him, and unbeknownst to him, he gets, you know, bitten, whichever, and of course, he gets sewed up, but of course, he eventually heals. Then things start to happen. Of course, father locks himself up, you know, not realizing, of course, his son doesn't know that the father's locked himself up because he already knows what he is. And clearly he doesn't know that his father is the reason that he is now a wolf himself. You see the transformations. Of course, he's eventually captured. He has a full-out transformation while he's locked up, whichever. And that, you know, definitely sets off the tone of them trying to find him, whichever. Emily Blunt's character, you know, starts to take a shine to him, wants to protect him. She realizes something happened to him. He's cursed. I want to help him, but she can't help. She's now being basically hunted by him in that form. You know, things happen where he eventually gets killed. I was so mad at her because she causes a situation to happen where the guy who's trying to hunt him down ends up getting bitten, you know, all the while trying to protect her. And now basically she's caused it where this now caused the curse to continue. And it's just like, oh my God, I was so pissed off at her character for doing that when she didn't want him to shoot him, and he got the upper hand on him. Like, girl, if you don't sit down. I was so pissed at her in that part, but you know, it is what it is. You know, but yes, but overall it was good. 2011, you all. This one, too. The first one, The Thing. This is the remake, and quite another remake. You all remember the one that came out in the 80s. That was a remake from the original one that came out years before that. With Kurt Russell in that one, and Keith David. This one, of course, is the one that came out, like I said, 2011. It stars Mary Elizabeth Winstead. We had Joel Edgerton, and there's plenty other names in this, whatever, but those are the two main ones that definitely are main lead in this movie. And of course, you all know the overall storyline, whatever. They come across this sort of, you know, species, whatever, that's underground within a block of ice, and they thought out, whatever, unbeknownst to them, that was definitely to protect them. They're not realizing what they've unleashed, and with that, this thing is trying to find its way, some sort of parasitic, whatever, that's trying to inhabit humans, whatever, so it can take on and basically blend in, whatever, and just, you know, do certain things that where it can cause that, where it can kind of, you know, find a way to get to civilization, whatever, and they don't want this to reach the surface of any human life, whatever. They're in a place where it's blocks of ice, whichever. They're, you know, far away from, you know, just natural habitat of, you know, people, general, whichever, and they have to deal with burning this thing up before it gets out. And you do see different transformations from this particular, you know, thing, you know, inhabiting some of the bodies. You're not realizing who's been already infected. You know, love those scenes. Those particular scenes in this one were really done really well. You know, I love the one that came out in the 80s with Kurt Russell. This one was done pretty damn good as a remake itself. So I love how they tied it, because let me tell you, when we look at it for 2011, a lot of people say it's a remake, but honestly, you'd almost think this is a prequel, because the way they set it up, one of the actual dogs get away, and you see how that dog shows up in the one with Kurt Russell. So I want to say more so of a prequel. So let me get my wording correctly. You see the scene of the guy who basically kills himself, whichever, and of course he's, you know, they're out there and it's, you know, freezing, as you know, cold, whatever. When he finds him, he's basically like a frostbite, whatever, shot in his head, whatever, and all that. So that's kind of basically how you see the premise of how they did the movie or whichever, but definitely effective and definitely really good. I love Marie Elizabeth Winstead's character. She was very keen on certain things, noticing certain things with teeth, with moles, catching certain things with Joel Edgerton's character with the earring. Just really good with that part. It was really awesome. So want to talk about that. Another one, The Cabin in the Woods. Really good movie. Chris Hemsworth in this one, Jesse Williams in this one. You know, they go to this cabin just thinking it's just like, you know, a thing for all the group of, you know, them to get together, and all. Unbeknownst to them, there's a lot more going on in this specific cabin, whichever, which opens up and you see all these other things going on. Give you a little bit of a synopsis or whatever. It's a remote forest cabin for a little vacation. Little did they expect that the horrors that await them. Two scientists played by, of course, Bradley Whitford, and Richard Jenkins again, are manipulating the ghoulish goings on with the cabin. He has set up electronically. They can see everything, video, whatever. They have all these little hidden things down below that has creatures in it, you know, other people. It was a lot going on, because when he showed a scene of Chris Hemsworth on the bike trying to get away. When the bird hit the thing, he should have realized, but when he jumped across to try to get over and that thing slammed, I was just like, oh God. I literally was like, damn. But then a lot of us in the theater were bust out laughing. It's just like, oh, he didn't see it coming. He had no clue, you know, thinking you're going to bust through whatever you thought the bird got hit. I'm like, bro, he's in the middle of just anything. You just have no words for that. But yes, that was one of those ones I actually enjoyed watching. So, but yes, moving from that. Now, 2012, the one that I definitely remember more so, and this has to do with the movie Sinister. That was a good movie. This is the one that was starring Ethan Hawke. If you have not seen that, definitely check it out. They did a secondary one, a sequel to that. Of course, you know, he's a writer. You know, he's kind of, you know, going through a little slump with his writing, whichever. But it's, you know, then it says he hasn't had his bestseller in over 10 years. And then it says increasingly desperate for his hit. So when he discovers the existence of a snuff film showing the deaths of a family, he vows to solve the mystery. He moves his whole family into the victim's home. When I remember that part, I just can't believe he did that, but okay. And he gets to work. However, when old film footage and other clues hint at a presence of a supernatural force, Ellison learns that living in the house may be fatal. Yeah, you think? And just like, I was like, are you kidding me, bro? Why would you do that? I'm just like, leave them where they are. I'm like, you gonna move them in there? I would not dare do that to my family. But you know what? Again, this is a movie. It is what it is. So yes, I wanted to just note that one. That was a good one. Like I said, out of all of them, that was the one I remember so much so than any other, whichever. Plus that evil entity, he was just, oh, he looked ridiculous. I was like, oh my God, look at this. Like, what's going on with your mouth? It's just creepy. I love it. Creepy. Now, moving on from that. 2013. This one, two in particular. So I'll make sure I didn't go over. Yes, two of them. This has to do with, first one, The Conjuring. Now, this is the one, like I said, another part of James Wan and all the different types of horror genres he's dealing with in regards to setting up definitely a part of a franchise. This one has to do with the two people who are considered paranormal investigators, Lorraine and Ed, I want to say Warren. And they're played by Vera Farmiga and Patrick Wilson. This, of course, they're, in this particular one, this is like one of their cases, and I'm going to set it up. It says, okay, the home of Carolyn, played by Lily Taylor, and her husband Roger, played by Ron Livingston, parent. The parents have 5 daughters and have recently moved into a secluded farmhouse where supernatural presence has made itself known. And the manifestations, are relatively benign at first. Events soon escalate in horrifying fashion. That setup for this particular movie, I really enjoyed the way it happens. You know, certain things happen, and of course, all of it culminates around what happens where the mother eventually gets possessed. All these things happen, and of course, little girls deal with certain situations, whichever. Unbeknownst to them, when their mother is infected, like, Mom, you okay? He's like, I'm fine, whatever, and all that. Things start happening. Of course, her acting different, whichever, the girls being kind of scared of what's going on, whichever. And of course, when they finally do, the sort of like an exorcism of sorts, whichever, with the priest, whichever, they have the sheet on her, she's in the chair, the blood through the sheet, just, oh, it was graphic, whichever, but it was really good. And I just love how they were able, of course, towards the end, save her. And then eventually, once they save her and all that, and hugged by her family, then eventually show them moving out that house. It's like, yeah, get out. It's just like, get out of there. It's like, I wouldn't want no part of that. But just to know that these are all symptoms of certain things that actually did happen, that is a part that always terrifies me the most, when they show pictures of certain families that dealt with this particular couple and what they do to help people dealing in these certain situations. So yes, that was a really good one. This one sets up, the tone of all these other different things that happen when we eventually get introduced to, of course, Annabelle, and of course the secondary case that they deal with, which I'll discuss soon. Now, my next one is one of the ones, and this is, of course, a remake, of course, and wasn't one I wasn't sure I was going to like, and this has to do with Evil Dead. This is one that was directed by Fede Alvarez, and I actually enjoyed it. When that trailer came out, that trailer was very effective. Very effective. Jane Levy's in this one. Love her. She did a phenomenal job. A bloodbath. Blood, the gore, playing that character where she's possessed. Oh my gosh, it was awesome. I really didn't think I was going to like the remake. Of course, them producing it by Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell being attached to that does help. They saw the vision. Fede brought it to life, because a lot of people, we were shutting this. I was just like, oh, like, really? So, and to know that in the end I actually liked it. Like I said, if I like it, whatever, I have no problem. It's like, I'll take it back. I'll eat my crow. And I really did enjoy this. Now, we wanted a secondary one. He never got a chance to get to this one. Jane Levy ended up doing another movie with him. It was called Don't Breathe. He put a poll out there just talking about which one y'all want to see. You want to see Evil Dead 2? You want to see Don't Breathe 2? A lot of people like Evil Dead 2, but it kind of fell off the wayside. We're hearing that we have a new director. Eventually, he's going to be doing another Evil Dead movie. And I think Sam Raimi actually picked the person. I'm curious to see who that is. I'm surprised that Fede's not coming back to do that. Hopefully that means that we will definitely get a Don't Breathe soon down the road, number 2. So I'm going to keep my eyes open for that, and I'm looking forward to seeing when this next Evil Dead is going to come out. I don't know how they're going to do it, if Jane's going to come back, or if they're going to start a whole new type of storyline. I don't want no new Ash. I made that abundantly clear. I'm not here for it. So I just had to throw that out there. So 2014. I have quite a few on this one. 3. The first one I'm going to talk about is The Babadook. That movie, that trailer creeped me out. I said, okay, I already know I'm going to go see this. It's starring Essie Davis. She's a mother who has a young son. She's lost her husband, and she's kind of just getting through the motions of dealing, with everyday life now that she has no husband, kind of feeling depressed, stressed, whichever. Her son, he's kind of just, his normal stuff, whatever. They have this kind of little book, and I'm going to read up what it says, of course, dealing with, battles with her son's fear of monsters lurking in the house. And of course they read us, about the Babadook, the little story, whichever. So every time you turn around, they were always checking up under the bed, checking in, the closet, whichever. But soon discovers a sinister presence all around her. And that's when you feel like it takes on a true form of this thing. Could this be real? Is she seeing things? The little boy thinks that, his mother eventually is possessed by it, whichever. There's certain scenes that are very creepy. The noise that it would make, it was just ridiculous. I didn't mean to do that, but just to give you an insight. If you watch the trailer, if you all get a chance, you will truly understand. I'm hoping a lot of you have seen that movie. If you have not, definitely check it out. It's something definitely totally different. I was here for it. It was very, very creepy. And I love how the little boy was able to one up on his mother to find a way to get the possession out of her, wrapping her up in some rope, knocking her out. I mean, this little boy did quite a bit. And for a little boy to have that much power, his mother, who was much taller and definitely can put more weight on him to do anything to her, but saving his mama, that's a good boy. So, but yes, I enjoyed that movie. The next one I want to talk about is Wolf Cop. That movie, here I am with the thing with wolf. You would think that, like, I don't like them. Why am I talking about so many wolf? Again, don't judge, but I said it was something totally different for this one. And this stars Leo, I want to say his name is Fafard. He was hilarious in this movie. They have done quite a few of the sequels to it. I do love the first one the most because, of course, it set the tone for all the ones that came after. I don't know if they're going to consider doing a 4th one. We'll have to see. I think they said there's a possibility they might. I have yet to buy the other ones. I need to consider that. But I'm just going to read off a little bit of synopsis. If you're not familiar, this is an alcoholic cop that blacks out and wakes up in an unfamiliar surroundings, and crime scenes seem oddly familiar when the full moon is out. Granted, somebody did some sort of ritual on him. You see the cut marks, because like I said, I have quite a few collages up here that I've been doing throughout, that you'll see a little bit of some screenshots to get an idea of how certain things were going on in the movies. And just like these guys did this, put this curse on him. And it's just like you took advantage of him, and it's like you set him up. That transformation scene, oh my God, it was graphic. There's a scene that's real graphic that I did not expect. Didn't think they would go there, but they went there. But overall, it was really good. And once he's in his wolf cop form, it's just really funny. You know, him seeing him in the actual cop thing with the gun. It's just, you know, he has a little intimate scene with a woman in a jail cell. I'm like, really, we really went there? But it is what it is. What the wolf cop got to have a life too. I enjoy this, so I just want to note that one. Now this one, I don't think a lot of you have seen this, but you should definitely check it out. A lot of people don't do clowns. I have no problem with clowns. They don't do anything to me, whichever. But this movie was at times very creepy. This movie is called Clown. It has to do with a loving father who becomes a savage killer while wearing a cursed clown suit. He does this up for, you know, something exciting for his, you know, his daughter, whichever. And he puts it on, whatever, not realizing once he puts it on, he cannot take it off. He can't get the wig off. He can't get the nose off. He's basically embedded into this clown suit that has some sort of curse to it. And over time, it starts to take control of him. And you see the scenes where his overall demeanor changes. He goes to the doctor to find out what's going on. When he tries to take some of it off the nose, it kind of tears his nose up, whichever. And over time, as he starts to, his overall, you know, mannerisms, you know, he's really nice, whatever. He becomes very, you know, angry, whichever, kind of a little bit, you know, very, you know, vengeful, whichever. His overall facial, his body changes. It's like it embeds into him where he becomes like some sort of freaking creature. And it's really, really a good movie. When I saw the trailer, I was like, I need to check this out. And I actually watched it. I really enjoyed it. So the movie is called Clown. And if you do get a chance, you know, it's, you know, randomly, whichever, when I saw it, I think I saw it on demand. So yeah, and I just enjoyed it for that. And like I said, pretty decent. So, but with that said, those are the three for 2014. Moving to 2015, there's only one movie I can say I really enjoyed in that year, and that was the movie The Hallow. This one stars Joseph Mawle, and it was really interesting, you know, about him. Let me read it. After moving to a remote house in a forest in Ireland, a family notices increasing strange sounds and occurrences, and as the light fails and with the warnings of the villagers ringing in their ears, they soon realize they have to fight to survive. It's like some sort of situation where it's some sort of creatures that roam at night, whichever. And it's certain things, as I don't know if it's some sort of type of virus or parasite, something within the forest that takes hold. So when his character, Joseph's character, gets infected, it starts to take over his body, where it starts to turn him into certain parts of the forest, like branches, stuff coming out of his head, out of his, you know, his eyes are changing, whichever. And something happens where you see a scene where they tried to, you know, kind of torment him, his wife, and the child. They end up grabbing the kid, whichever. He has to figure out where they took his baby and try to help his wife get to the baby on before his full transformation, where he will become something else, you know, because you do see where he fends them off, whichever. They're, you know, trying to do certain things, whichever. He still has a little bit of human left in him, that he's able to find ways to help her, whichever. But it's just so sad, you know, because, you know, there's a scene where they try to put this fake baby that looks like, you know, crying, all that, to try to, you know, fend off the mother. But eventually she knows her baby, and she's able to save her child and get the heck up out of there. But it was just like the villagers giving him definitely some just some advice, whichever, you know, stay far away from certain areas and all that. And they're just, you know, bike packing through. He's like, He's like, you know, backpack, excuse me. But I'm like, really? In an area you shouldn't be out. You should be out there doing that. Whatever, you got the baby, whichever. Those things that already see you. They see this family. They're going to take advantage, and that's exactly what happened. So it was just a lot going on with that. But it was a really good movie. I really enjoyed that movie for that year. So this one, 2016, I have three, maybe a notable mention. The first one, Lights Out. It's starring Teresa Palmer and the little boy Gabriel Bateman. He was actually in the new movie The Child's Play, whichever. Very good. Come to find out, their mother, played by Mario Bello, it's a character where she's come across a friend back when she was a child who was very closed off, whatever, had an umbrella, dark hair, couldn't deal with sunlight, whatever, always stayed in the dark, whichever. Basically took on a whole new imagination when certain things happened when they were doing an experiment on her. So basically she stays in the dark. She's kind of depressed because she ends up losing her husband. Her husband wants her to get some help because she has what considered, you know, we would all think some type of a childlike friend who's all in her imagination, whatever. unbeknownst to him, it actually is real. Now, granted, he tries to help her, but then he gets killed in the process. So of course it leaves them with her and her two kids. Teresa Palmer's character has moved out. She can't deal with it anymore, but she does stay close enough so she can still see her brother. And that's when the brother starts noticing, his mother being very depressed, taking medication, dealing with the situation, trying to bring him into the fold, and then the girl, wanting to have her hands on him and do this and that, other and all that. I want to know what they called her. I can't remember the name of her. I want to say Diane. Excuse me. I think it was Diane or Diane. That was the entity of dark in the darkness. So needless to say, Teresa has a boyfriend. She's kind of wanted to hang out, whatever, but she's dealing with the situation with the family and all that, which escalates because now Diane wants to get rid of her and her brother, and certain things happen where they have to get the one up and stay in the light, can't be in the dark, because once they're in the dark, she has the upper hand on them, and eventually they do end up, get an upper hand on Diane, and she's of course kaput, whichever. But I love everything that led up to that, whichever. That was a good movie based off of a short film that was very effective, but nothing compared to what we were expecting when they showed Diane from the character from that one. But just the woman who's in this particular character, I might put the picture of her because she's actually in the movie where she's, in her home and she turns light and turns back just to kind of look, which we all kind of do, and I've done that, and she sees a figure, in the darkness, and she turns back the light, you don't see anything. So that kept going on, whatever, and eventually she turns the light on, tapes it up, gets in her bed, and eventually, the light goes off, all this creepiness and the buildup of the creepiness. So eventually when she turns on the light and she looks around and she turns back, see this ugly figure of what God knows what that is, whichever. Very effective. But I love that they show, the respect by putting the female who was in the short story in the movie, even though her part was short at the beginning, but it was really good. I enjoyed that. So moving from that. Now the next one is The Conjuring 2, like I already discussed about the two main characters, Patrick, Wilson, and also Vera Farmiga. They come back to do another case. This one has to do with a family in North London, a mother of 4 kids. She becomes very, overwhelmed. One of her children, which is one of her daughters, becomes possessed, by some sort of, spirit, horror, entity of sorts. And this is the one we definitely get introduced to The Nun, which is played by Bonnie Aarons. And let me tell you, you all should know the scene. When I went to the theater, the scene of course, Vera Farmiga's character down there, her husband painted some painting of the nun. I'm like, ew, the thing looked ugly. And then when it shows her down there, and she comes, and you see what looks like to be some sort of vision up against, or some sort of blackness up against the wall, comes up behind the painting, put the hands from behind the painting, and charges her. I was too through. Creepy, scary. I loved it. I love The Conjuring 2 more than I love the first one. So that one was more effective. The little girl, her possession scenes were really good. I love the scene where it shows this old man who's kind of like haunting the home, whatever, but doesn't fully want to haunt it because he's already dealing with the situation with the spirit from the nun in there, That was really good, and overall I really enjoyed that one. I think we're supposed to be getting a 3rd installment. I'm looking forward to seeing that. I think they've just about wrapped that up, so we should be getting that very soon. I think they did another movie kind of around that, because it seemingly is around also as well as the Annabelle movies. Like I said, the Annabelle Creation, and Annabelle Comes Home. Out of all of those, I like Annabelle Creation, but that's just me. Some people might like the first one, some people like the last one, but mine is that's my favorite one. Now moving from that, The Autopsy of Jane Doe. That was a good movie. Emily Hirsch and Brian Cox were in this. They basically brought in some body of some young girl, and just regularly wanting to do a regular autopsy, but there's more to this body, a lot more going on. So some sort of, vengeful, supernatural occurrences are happening, finding things within the body that have been buried in the body to keep, I'm assuming, these evil spirits or evil, from coming out. Rightfully so, and things start happening within the hospital. They're in the coroner's, of course, a department, and they're trying to finish this off, and as more and more stuff, they get clues, basically from Brian Cox's character. You see the scene of him start putting 2 and 2 together, and that's when we realize certain things happen. They're trying to burn the body, can't do it. That body, by the end of the movie, is in full intact. That movie was straight creepy. I loved everything about it, because the girl, and let me write her name. Her name was Alwyn Kelly. She did a phenomenal job. She's just standing there, whatever, very effective. The eyes, the blood sometimes coming down, of course having the bell on her feet, certain things making noises, whichever, and all these different creatures or certain things of figments coming around the hospital, whatever. Sad, the father and son eventually die. You know, it's like, you know, there was a reason why these individuals did what they did to this body when they found his body trying to be buried. But, you know, clearly, you know, they didn't want that. And with that, this is what happened. They got stuck and then now they were killed. And that was an unfortunate scene. But a very, very good movie. So moving from that, 2017. I have 3 on that one. This one, of course, Andy Muschietti. We already know about the group of kids, 7, you know, kids, you know, bullied, called the Losers for the Losers Club, whichever, dealing, you know, with a situation in Derry, Maine, where they're dealing with what we all know as Pennywise. You know, was supposed to be some friendly clown, but of course wreaking havoc. You know, taking, you know, children, whichever, you know, just a good overall remake of the movie. Well, not the movie, excuse me, the mini TV series, which I enjoyed. I love the original miniseries. That thing was done with Tim Curry playing Pennywise back then. Of course, with the new updated one that came out in 2017 with Bill Skarsgård playing Pennywise, he did a phenomenal job. Everybody loved it. I think the thing made like, was it 800 million or something, whatever, and all that. And of course, we were going to get a secondary one, which, you know, came out actually this year. So, like I said, you know, that one you get introduced to the kids. It was really done very well. I can't say enough about it. The creepy factor in this one, definitely with the kids, because you got to enjoy the kids, of course, before they go into the part 2, which is them as an adult, whichever. So, can't say enough about that one. This movie right here, Get Out. I love this. I won't say this is all encompassing horror. Definitely a suspense. Definitely a thriller. Definitely directed by Jordan Peele. I love it because it was a little bit something different, kind of like a social thriller of sorts, starring Daniel Kaluuya and Allison Williams, Bradley Whitford in this one as well. Basically going to visit her family, whichever, you know, think it's going to be a lovely trip for her to get to know her parents. Unbeknownst to him, he's engulfed in all this other stuff going on, not realizing this all encompassed with him being here. He's really definitely the main attraction, and all the while he's dealing with situations where, you know, the sunken place. I have a t-shirt sometimes I like to wear when I do my reactions. It's called The Sunken Place, when the wife, you know, is doing, and what's her name? I want to know her name in here. I'm sorry. I cannot remember the who plays the wife's name, but needless to say, her having that hold on him, the scene of him, you know, drinking the, you know, her doing it with the tea and all that, and him and all that, and him falling into the sunken place. That was a beautiful scene to see, where he can just, when he talks about it in an interview, can, you know, the tears coming on cue, you know, all this stuff build up as to why they're doing it. They're having a, you know, a bingo where they're, you know, on him, and one of the guys, you know, he basically ends up winning it, and the reason, he's like, you know, when he asked him, you know, why me, he's like, you know, he's like, I'm not into all this other stuff, I just want your eyes. You know, I was just like, he just let it be known, he don't care about all this other stuff. Some of them want him because if it's pink, you know, and black, you know, this, and black is in, you know, guy in his soul black suit, and then one woman talking about, is it like it really is, like they say it is, you know, is it better? And just, oh my God, just the comments, the statements, the ignorance of it all. It was just something to behold, and like, I like how his friend realizes that he shouldn't have went down there. There's a lot more. You could be some sort of sex slave. Just the hilarious of it all. But then in the end, you know, seeing what he did to the woman who's considered, you know, the guy who's like, you know, the help around the house, you know, the maid or whatever, not be noticing to them that they were used to, brought in, whatever, all from the daughter Allison Williams' character. Just unbelievable. I went to see this movie 4 times. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed that thing immensely. I know a lot of people feel it's overrated, but it was something a little bit different that I'm not used to, and I actually enjoyed it for that simple fact, as well as some other things that I enjoyed throughout the movie, whichever. That's why I kept going back, so I feel like I wasn't missing anything. But yes, definitely one of those ones that left a total impression on me, which I love. I mean, literally. And being in the theaters after I saw it the first time, feeling everybody else's impression of it and hearing everybody's thoughts while I was watching it, was really interesting just to feel all that going on. So, but moving from that, the other one is The Ritual. This was on Netflix. I enjoyed this movie. Let me read the synopsis with you for this one. It's like, reuniting after a tragic death of their friend, 4 college pals set out to hike through the Scandinavian wilderness. A wrong turn leads them into a mysterious forest of Norse legend where an ancient evil exists and stalks them at every turn. And that thing really did. That creature at the end was creepy. Them, you know, locking them up and trying to, you know, sacrifice them. And then, of course, you know, showing how they were doing certain things to the people. This thing they had little markings in the trees, things of that nature. You know, one of the friends, you know, when they had that tragic death, one of them could have helped, and he punked out, straight punked out. I have another choice word, but I won't go there. But needless to say, it was really, really a really good movie. It was a very creepy movie. The guy who was the punk and the way he didn't help his friend, he's the one that ends up surviving. I was like, really, you? You know, I'm like, oh my God, I'm sorry I have to go there. But yes, that's how I felt. Because I was like, of all your other friends who definitely didn't deserve whatever to die as well, you got away. But I give it to him, whatever, because once he got to that line in the forest, whatever, he got out, whatever, you saw that creature over there, he was probably pissed because he couldn't get him. That crap was hilarious to me. So, but yes, I had to state that. So, but yes, another notable mention I really want to talk about is this movie called, well, no, just Annabelle Creation. I just talked about that when I was talking about Conjuring 2. That was the one I really enjoyed. I love when the nun and the girls go to this house because the couple prior to that lost their daughter, and they did a likeness to their daughter with the actual doll. And that's kind of when they see the spirits, they think it's a beautiful spirit. It's like it's their daughter, their ghost. But unbeknownst to them, it's something else that is using their daughter's spirit to kind of take control, whichever. And that's when, of course, the mother, she ends up getting, of course, mauled from her eye, whichever. She stays secluded. Of course, the girls come in. One girl always wants to be nosy, goes into the room that's supposed to be fended off. She keeps going in there, which I can't just always make them do the dumb stuff. And then, of course, eventually she ends up getting possessed, in regards to the Annabelle. And, of course, the Annabelle doll you see throughout that thing, that's partly key to, keep that doll away from me, whichever. And let's just say that one of the girls, she gets hip to it, realizing that's my friend is not the same. Something went down when something took her wheelchair and pushed her into that little barn, whatever, and she just was never the same from that. When they tried to push her into one of the closets, with all of the Bible scriptures and all that, whichever, she found a way to get out, bust out. And it's kind of the way they do Annabelle Creation. It kind of falls in line where it's Annabelle Creation, then it's Annabelle, because certain scenes from the end of Annabelle Creation kind of ties into Annabelle, and then we see, when they say Annabelle comes home, all the other movies, like The Conjuring, falls in line with this, whichever. So it's almost like you have to follow it in the order. And that's kind of how he does that. 2018, I have a couple of them. Suspiria. That was a remake from the 1977 one with Jessica Harper. That movie was phenomenal. I enjoyed seeing Dakota Johnson, play the role of, her name in the movie? Oh gosh, what was it? Susie, excuse me. I had to write my own notes down. Of course, Tilda Swinton. Tilda Swinton played a couple of characters in this one. Very good. Love her. And then, of course, who else was in this one? Jessica Harper actually made an appearance, which was lovely. And then Chloe Grace Moretz was in this as well. And just, of course, her going, to, Berlin to do the dancing. This was considered circa 70s era, the way they made it as well for that. And certain things happening, throughout her training, not realizing she's, dancing at a ballet where she's all around so many different ladies who actually are witches. Yes, I will say this. That was a very well done remake. The original definitely good, very psychedelic from the one from the 70s, very colorful. This one definitely more circa the 70s look, whichever, very rich in colors, but nothing to the one in the 70s. I will say this, very effective in keeping an impression on me. There's a scene with one of the characters who goes by the name of Olga. That scene where she has she makes some comments, whatever, and all that, these people, just says some stuff that she shouldn't have said, whichever. So when she's trying to leave, something happens to her where she starts, her eyes, she can't see, she ends up going to one of the rooms, whichever, and she's trying to get out. So when Tilda Swinton's character is making Dakota do a dance, she's making her do the dance, and she kind of comes up and touches her, basically setting off some sort of curse that's kind of intertwined with Olga's character. So she makes Olga, anytime Dakota dances, Olga's dancing. And let's just say that the woman who plays Olga, she is actually a contortionist. She took it to a whole nother level. That scene was so graphic and it was so wrenching for me. It literally made me sick because it went on for such a long period. It's almost like that scene lasted almost over 5 minutes. I literally wanted to throw up. It was so effective. My stomach turns just talking about it, but it was really good. I enjoyed it immensely. So yes, that was a great remake, and like I said, it takes a lot for me to like it. The trailer was so good that I was like, when it came out, I had to see it, and definitely added to my collection. I just can't say enough about that. So that's one. Another movie, Hereditary. Let's go there. That movie right there, I cannot say enough about that movie. What's her name? Oh, Toni Collette. phenomenon in her own right in this movie. I adore her. She's been in so many things I love, but she literally did the thing in this movie. Of course, dealing with her daughter, being a little different, her son, whichever in the situation, the little clock noises she makes, not realizing somebody's basically scoping it out, not realizing somebody who befriends her, all the while is somebody who's known of her family, through her mother. Her mother left a certain impression on her, whatever, and all that, the way she kept her to a certain standard, not knowing her mother had another life of doing certain things, a part of a cult, and did not know this. Of course, a situation happens with her son who causes an accident, a freak accident, not, by accident, where she loses her daughter, and it sets a ripple effect with her dealing with, going to, kind of like a certain thing in regards to a crisis. If certain things happen where you speak to people, whatever, like a little anonymous, thing where you have a little meeting just to get it out. She comes across a woman who befriends her, not realizing this woman's already aware of her. Certain things have been set in motion, whichever, and then we start dealing with situations where she's trying to start seeing things, certain things are happening, and let's just say it takes on a whole new life. Her son starts, dealing with certain situations, and then she ends up shifting and changing. There's a book that's involved that she throws into the fire. Her husband is on fire. The son wakes up, and all these things start happening. You're finding, the grandmother's, body without the heads inside the attic. It was just a lot going. It was a mind cluster of just all types of things, but I was here for it. I loved it. It was awesome. So I couldn't say it enough. So from there, just the son not realizing that in the end he was the disciple, he was the one that they wanted. They wanted a male, and in the end it ended up being him, and them doing this little ritual, and then and I can tell you this, Ari Aster likes some nudity. I was just like, okay, but it is what it is. It went with the scene, the way it was done, but a very I was literally in awe, like, what am I watching? But I was here for it because it was something totally different. And I loved it. Definitely a thriller of sorts, whichever. But yes, definitely enjoyed this movie. Another one, A Quiet Place. I won't consider it so much of a horror. Definitely a thriller. Definitely suspenseful, whichever. Of course, starring John Krasinski and Emily Blunt. And of course, John Krasinski directed it. Very good for his directorial debut. It's about, being invaded, by some sort of aliens. But of course, instead of them, the way of them hunting is that they can hear. So you have to do everything in silence. And that was the most effective thing. And that was the most intriguing thing about this movie, seeing the trailer. It was done so well that it made so much money. That budget was so small, but it made over almost $400 million. We are getting a sequel. It's supposed to be coming out next year. I'm looking forward to that. It's going to be good. I loved how certain things that encompass the daughter in regards to her being, hearing impaired, became very effective for them to fend off these these creatures. So I'm looking forward to them prolonging that story, and it was just done very, very well. I love how they were showing certain scenes of what they would do through their day-to-day to avoid any type of noise, to avoid any of these creatures. It was well done. I'm looking forward to seeing definitely what this next installment is going to be, because I don't think John at first was going to do it, but he found something that he thought could be good to kind of follow up with the story. He says it won't be your typical sequel. That's what he said. So I'm here for it. It's all good. I just want to do a notable mention with two movies. Wildling, it was starring Liv Tyler, Brad Dourif, and I want to say her name is Belle Powley, about a young girl who's being in captivity with Brad Dourif's character, who's been taking care of her since she was a little baby. A young woman sees her new freedom shattered by a series of unsettling events. Certain things start happening. So this movie was very interesting to me. I came across it. I don't know where I was and how I saw this. I don't know if it was something on, I think it might have been on YouTube, and I saw the trailer and I was really engrossed. And when I found it on demand, I had to watch it. And I really, really enjoyed this movie. And let me tell you, the end credits, there's a song that they do at the end titled Wilding, whatever. I really like that song. I just had to throw that out there, whichever. But if you get a chance, if you want to watch it, please check that out. I really enjoy that. Another notable mention is Mandy with Nicolas Cage. Still the trailer, need I say more? Andrea Riseborough played the wife, whichever. These, psychedelic people come through, take his wife, torture him, whatever, and all that, and eventually kill her, whatever. Leave him for dad. Oh no, he comes back. He's like, I want my revenge. He kills his little creature biker buddies. He kills the man who was in charge, whatever. He goes to town. It gets bloody, it gets graphic, it gets gory. I was here for it. I love me some Nicolas Cage. I was here for it. So definitely more on the thriller aspect, gore fest of sorts. Not too much horror, but it is what it is, and I loved it. I loved it. So only in 2019, just a couple of them, just two, of course. Chapter 2 just came out in September. Like I said, we finally see the Losers Club grow up. You know, we had a full star-studded cast. James McAvoy, Jessica Chastain, Jay Ryan, oh God, I'm forgetting some names, but just to name a few. It was just very star-studded. They did an awesome job. They found the perfect cast to play them as older kids, which I loved. Of course, Bill Skarsgård back as Pennywise. He did an awesome job this time around. I love both of them. Some people I like the first one a little bit better, more the creepy. I said I like them both. I thought they were genuinely done very well. The trailer was definitely set up really well. The woman who played the elderly woman, that Jessica Chastain, goes back to the house and she finds her clue when they have to put together, find certain things that culminate with their particular history with Pennywise, whatever, to become effective to rid them of him. I like that part where she hit it in the wall, whatever, and this woman, just weird, offering cookies and tea. Just, oh my gosh, she was so creepy. We already knew who that really was, but it was really good. Also, just seeing the parts with James McAvoy's character with Jay Ryan, that, feeling of him, missing out on her and when she was young, just all those type of things, and just seeing how they all have grown, what they have been doing, even though those parts were brief, but just enough to get an insight into their lives and them all coming back together, to Derry, Maine. That was really good. I'm definitely looking forward to getting this on DVD. I think it's getting ready to come out very soon. I think sometime by November, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Everything comes out so fast now, I just can't keep track. But yes, again, loved it. If people throw it out there, possibly a third one, they don't need to do the third one. We're done. We're done. I think 1 and 2 is just fine. We don't need any more. And Andy Muschietti did a fabulous job with both Chapter 1 and Chapter 2. I think we're good. So I'm happy that we have this. So like I said, once I get this one, I'll be good to go. I have both. So the other movie I want to talk about is Us by Jordan Peele. This one, of course, starred, Winston Duke, Lupita Nyong'o. This one was really well done. This one definitely outside the box. It had my mind blown. This family, of course, going, down to what looks like, someplace where they have like a little ferry, like carnival type of thing, whichever. And it shows Circa earlier on, whatever, little girl traipses off, whatever. And certain things happen, whichever. And needless to say, it's a ripple effect of certain things that end up happening down the road because of now she has a family, she's all grown up. And they, of course, end up getting a knock at the door when they come back to the house. And it's these 4 people, of course, 2 adults and 2 kids, unbeknownst to them. And, of course, when the girl, Lupita's character, sees her, whatever, crying, now unbeknownst to us, what's really going on, come to find out, you see what looks like to be these same people look exactly like them. Where did you come from? Where have you been? And certain parts of the storyline towards the end of the movie give you a better understanding. I know some people I talked to, even one of my family members we were talking about, and she was like, she didn't really understand, wasn't getting it. I said, I don't really understand how nobody really understood and get it. Definitely towards the end when they were showing you. Now, granted, I can understand the one part of them being underground, like you come up, like they would show one of the couples or a person up there above, and they'll show them, acting a certain way below. It's like they have to, acting is much similar to they underground. It was really fascinating to me, the genetics of them, like when they showed the rabbits, like, them, like, I don't know if you're considering them, duplicating. That's how I kind of was venturing it off and kind of taking away from that. And then knowing the character Lupita Nyong'o, when you really realize what's really going on, and you see the scene where she's strangled as a young girl, you're not realizing the girl she strangled is the real true girl that she strangled. That's why when you see her speaking to her in the house while they're in there and they can't go anywhere, that's really her. She took her life from her, and she basically ends up having the same life as her, but underground, what was considered identical to her husband and her 2 kids. So it was just so fascinating to me. I loved it. It was awesome. I can't say enough about this movie. I'm looking forward to his next installment. I know he's producing the Candyman movie. I don't know what he's working on right now besides that. They haven't said anything about that, but I'm looking forward to. Some people have put out there he should, do a secondary to this because the way it ended, it's a possibility they could do this. It doesn't have to be her family anymore because they already dealt with that situation with that said family, the identical duplicates of, Lupita Nyong'o's family. So I don't know. And when you see it, the way they're all intertwined, going down when they're driving down the street, you can see all the people, it keeps going, traveling. So you never know. That would be interesting if they decide to do that. We'll have to see. I don't know. He never hinted to that, but they have brought up in many of interviews that I've seen online. So, but yes, those are the two I only want to talk about for 2019. There's still a couple other things, whichever, but those are two that definitely, honestly, that I've enjoyed for this year in regards to, you say thriller, horror, whatever you want to call it. So you know what, guys, this baby is long. I went over an hour and a half. Some of them I really wanted to kind of dive into. There's no way I can just say something really quickly, like a sentence, whichever. I just want to kind of dig in it. But these are the ones, you guys, from 2000 to 2019 that I want to discuss that I actually enjoyed in those years, that, you know, really I enjoy, and like I said, left an impression on me, so much so that they are in my collection. So, you know, I just wanted to kind of note that in there. And if any other ones that I did talk about that you saw throughout this, you know, comment in there. Let me know what if you've seen some of these, if some of them you actually enjoyed yourself. You know, tell me if it's a scene in it that you like, whichever. I love when people tell me certain scenes, whichever. I like to pick my mind thinking about it myself. So, but with that said, I hope you enjoyed this. Again, happy Halloween. Up, check out the shirt. I had to get something a little different. I love this one. So, but with that said, again, comment below. Let me know what you all think. And with that said, I will see you guys on the next video. You guys take care.